Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar series of our post-COVID-19 lockdown strategy. My name is Catherine Aligamia, and I'll be facilitating this session for today. First off, I want to say a very big thank you to everyone who have been part of our session right from the maiden edition. I hope it has been insightful and educative to you as an individual and also as an organization. Okay, and for those of you that have not been in participation, not to worry, we got it covered. We have the recording sessions available on our YouTube channel, which I'll be posting later in the chat window. So today, we'll be talking about how to simplify your cloud migration journey with Azure Migrate. And I have our speaker on the call, James Olashupo, who will be taking us through this. I'm very sorry, Emmanuel Joe is unavoidably absent and due to unforeseen occurrence within our control. So before I move on, a little bit of what we have today. You agree with me, there has never been a time to migrate from your on-premise infrastructure down to the cloud due to the fact that we are faced with the current global pandemic, the COVID-19. So a lot of businesses have been forced to go fully cloud to deal with the recent switch to remote work. As much as organizations are looking at business continuity, they want to also make resources available for their users, why not compromising data and security? So whether you are currently in the cloud or you are thinking of going to the cloud fully or moving part of your on-premise infrastructure to the cloud, this does not come without the complexity and hidden challenges of cloud computing. But having the right tools to help with migrating your workloads from on-prem to the cloud is the key to successfully removing your business critical workload. And this is where Azure Migrate comes into play. So Azure Migrate is simply a tool that assists you as an organization with the migration of your on-premise infrastructure apps and data to Microsoft Azure. And it's a centralized hub that you can use to start, run, and track migrations to Azure. And another beautiful thing about this tool is that it provides a range of tools to perform both assessment and migration. And it even integrates with other Azure services and independent software vendors offerings. So with Azure Migrate, you are sure to have a seamless cloud migration journey while constantly keeping your workload optimized, well managed, and secured. So before I hand over to the speaker for today, a little bit of housekeeping. I want to crave your indulgence that this session is currently recorded and will be made available to us at the end of the session and for reference purposes. And as much as we don't want to interrupt the speaker for today, we want to make this session very much interactive. So if you have questions, please drop it on the chat window or kindly use the raise your hand feature for you to make your questions known to us. Also, I'll be dropping a link to a short survey for you to give us your feedback concerning today's session. We at Ha-Shem, we love feedback and we want to make adjustments when necessary. I will also be dropping links to our various social media handles, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram also. And if you have topics that you want us to educate you on, please simply let it known to us. And I'll also be dropping an email for you to reach out to us in case you need further information on this. Thank you, and I'll be handing over to James Olashupo for the moment. Thank you. Do have an insightful session. James, over to you, please.
Okay. Thank you, Catherine. It's nice having us on this call this evening. Thank you, everyone, for joining once again. My name is James Olashupo Opeyemi. I'm going to be having this, taking this session with us so that we can do what we can enjoy the experience of how we can simplify our migration to Azure Cloud, right? So a little bit of information about me. My name is James Olashupo, as I've said, and most people call me Smiley James, and I have series of so many aliases. So, but the most of it all is Smiley James. So, I'm a technical support engineer with Ha-Shem Limited, and some of my workloads includes Azure, around Azure infrastructure, Azure security, Azure data, and also analysis and governance as well. Then around having some troubleshootings and support services on Azure as well. Then I have around Microsoft 365, which ranges from enterprise mobility suite. You have Office 365, you have Windows 10, you have the security part of Microsoft 365, not just Office 365, right? So we are also major on Windows servers. So from 2008 down to the current Windows Server 2019, right? Then also cloud security, like I mentioned earlier on, around Azure and also Microsoft 365. Now, should you want to know more about me, right? So that's why I put up my LinkedIn profile here, so which you can just look up to know more about my career, and I mean my career movement, and also my personality as regard the industry. Right. I'm going to be delving in this presentation, and I would not want to actually bore you a lot with presentation, so because it is more or less a demo, let us have our hands on this demo and we can go on and we can go towards the migration journey. Now, there are so many concerns as part of the things that was raised by Catherine, right? As part of the things that has been raised by Catherine, it's around so many questions that organizations, CIOs, CTOs, and even the business owners that have been raising all the time, and be asking some of their team to present responses for them, and around this cloud, and even the migration as well, right? So one of it is around Azure. I mean, if there is any framework in place, framework like maybe some practices, some best practices recommendations from the OEM as per me migrating my infrastructure or my data or my applications to the cloud. And even if there is a framework, do I have anything like a tool for me to be able to discover some of all these infrastructure, some of the things that is running on the server itself? And also, can I do inventory? Like, can I do a major inventory for me to see the mappings of each of these applications and also the servers, to see the servers that are connecting to one applications, or to see the applications that is connecting to one servers or the other, right? Then also, how do I evaluate different scenarios? Okay, you are talking about migrating servers, but I don't have servers. I only do web applications. I only have a virtualization environment, and I am not the one that is even hosting this environment. It's not within my data center. I'm not hosting any of my servers, but I sublet it to maybe another cloud or anything like that. So if you also wanted to have this particular, you're worried about this particular scenario, so these are also one of the questions around around the strategy for me to do migration to to Azure cloud as well. Then also, how do I perform migrations for servers, for databases, or even more, be it applications and so on and so forth? How do I even perform this stuff? And at the same time, I am running legacy applications, meaning applications that maybe the OEM does not even support, like maybe Microsoft is no longer supporting the operating system, or they don't do patching support of that operating system as well. So how do I migrate it to Azure as well? Is there any support from Microsoft as well? So these are some of the concerns that I believe that um, and so many more, but these are the major that so many of us have been having as regard migrating our infrastructure or even data to the cloud. So that's one of the things that we're going to be delving with by talking about the processes, the product, and also the program. Now, talking about the process, I mentioned earlier on, most of us will be concerned about the framework. Do we have any framework in place that we cater, that will give me something like what best practices in my planning? Like you see, I have planning, defining the strategy for me to do the movement, talking about the business justifications, talking about the business outcomes, if even if we're going to do the migration as well, and talking about some people which must have performed this migration before now, right? So how did they do it? What are some of the pros and cons that I need to consider before doing what? Before embarking on the cloud journey? You can have this Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework. Go through it. It's a very useful what is a very useful tool or document library that you can actually embrace to do to answer some of the questions around your words, around the concerns like the framework, best practices, security, governance, and even lots more, right? So then the another thing is around what is around the product itself. Now, like I mentioned earlier on, I said migration to Azure is we address it in three phases, right? We have the process, we have the product, and we have the program, right? The product is the Azure Migrate, which is a talk of today. I'm going to be dealing with this in my next slide more, right? So then the third one is the program. So how do I commence my migration planning? I mean, how do I commence this program, right? So that is why you have what you have Microsoft, and you also have partners, that's experienced partners that have done a lot of this activity even alongside with Microsoft, and that's one what you can also consider as part of add-ons for you by contacting Ha-Shem Limited for us to give you our excellent services when it comes to what? When it comes to drafting and even designing your strategy in migrating your infrastructure or even your data or your application to the cloud as well. So I'll be talking more now in-depthly about the what about the Azure Migrate. I told you earlier on I'm not going to bore you with what with so much of slides and presentations. So I just want to prepare you so that you know some of all these things that we'll talk about when we delve into the what into the demo part of it. Now, I said earlier on that I mean, like Catherine mentioned earlier on, she spoke about Azure Migrate being the up for data center migration. So, which means it's not just only servers. You also have what you have the applications. You can manage the end-to-end of your what end-to-end of your Azure migration project in Azure Migrate portal, right? And how do I know that? It defines us with the key migration scenario. You will be able to define which key migration scenario that your organization is trying to embark on. Sorry for that. You'll be able to define the key migration scenario, which I'm still also going to enlighten us more on this in my next slide, right? So then you will also be able to have integrated discovery, assessment, and also migration capabilities. How do I mean by this? Is that now, with Azure Migrate itself, you can do discovery of your what? Discovery of your assets when it comes to your infrastructure, your applications, and even your data as well. You can use the Azure Migrate to do discovery of all this, not only in Microsoft environment or even within your environment. You can also extend it to another cloud providers such as Google Cloud or Amazon, that's AWS. You can extend Azure Migrate to do discovery in that particular what in that particular environment as well. Another one is Microsoft is not just saying that you must use my tool for you to do discovery or for you to do your migration journey into my cloud. You can leverage on any other what any other independent software vendors tools that is being provided. I'm going to show us some of all these tools which we can use to perform our what to perform our migration, also to even do an assessment. Let's even take an instance. I don't want to use I only wanted to do an assessment, right? I don't want to do the migration with this particular tool. Maybe I wanted to use another ISV tool for me to do what? To do the migration. You can use that. You can combine both Azure Migrate or any other tools being provided by Microsoft, or even an ISV tool, to make assessment, and at the same time use any tool that pleases or suits your organization based on your work, based on the strategies and the planning that you've had in order to achieve your business outcome. You can use it to do your migration to the cloud. And most importantly, you'll be able to track end-to-end migration of your what? Your um, data center and applications also into Azure, cloud. I'm sure so many of us, maybe so many of us, as which we might have handled Azure Migrate or used Azure Migrate in the past, like about 1.5 years ago. You're going to agree with me that before now, right, Azure Migrate is only available to this zone. That is, you are able to use it to do discovery, assessment, and also migration of Windows, Linux, and be it a VMware or Hyper-V, or even a physical, or even from other cloud as well, right? Then you have SQL and other databases as well. So then you also have data that's but recently, right? So Microsoft announces they announces the supportability and another scenario where you can use the Azure Migrate for. So you can use Azure Migrate to also migrate your virtual desktop infrastructure to Azure, and at the same time your web applications as well. So I'm going to be delving into a demo now. I told you I don't want to bore us with presentation slides, right? So I'm going to be delving into a demo now for us to see for us to be able to have an hands-on on the whole experience of what Azure Migrate is all about, right? Okay. So I don't know, can we still see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Oh,
See your
awesome.
screen.
So this is my this is my landing page for me when I have logged on to Azure. So if you're using Azure portal for the first time, right? So you need to just go to portal.azure.com, right? Portal.azure.com, and you hit enter, right? So it brings you to it brings you to this landing page. Don't worry about my resources. If you are just spinning up your Azure portal for the first time, you're not going to see any of the resources. You're just going to see some of all these services. So if I need to launch my Azure Migrate, I can scroll to the bottom of the page where I have Azure Migration Tools, right? Azure Migration Tools. And from here, it will take me to Azure Migrate portal itself within Azure, right? Then I can see migrate your on-premise data center to Azure, where you can get to where you can get to do discovery, you can get to do assessment, you can get to migrate your on-premise applications using Microsoft or third-party tools. So you can use some of all this link being provided by you. Each time you see a learn more link like this, you can get to use it to get more information about what you can do on this particular service or even this particular portal. So let's get to see some of the tools. So I'm going to go to assess and migrate. I'm not migrating now, right? I just want to do assessment of my infrastructure. So how do I start? So you get to see migration goal. Our migration goals is okay: servers, databases, virtual desktop infrastructure. Then you have web application, and you even have data boxes, right? So, and you can also create a support ticket here. So you creating a support ticket here gives you one-on-one access to Microsoft engineer to give you an assistant that you might need to do your planning, or probably if you're having any difficulties with your assessment also. So I'm going to launch on the assesses now, right? Now, for every assessment that you're going to do, we need to create a migration project, right? So because I have created a migration project here, which is called WebLogic, right? That's the reason why you're seeing this. So I'm going to click on change here for me to create a new migration project. So when I click on that, you get to see here, click here for you to do what? To create a new project. I must also tell us that a particular project, migration project can contain up to about 35,000 words, 35,000 assessments. So, which means that you can do assessment of up to about 35,000 servers or devices in your words, in your infrastructure or your data center. So, within one project, you can have about 35,000 of it. So, or you can just separate your migration project. So I'm going to name I need to define my subscription. Which subscription do I need to use? I need to create create the resource group where it needs to belongs to. Then I also need to define my migration. So I'm going to call this test migrate. And then I need to select the geography. That's where the repository. So I must tell us also that anytime you're seeing like this symbol or this icon, it tells you that you can use it to get information about what that particular task or that parameters is asking you for. So I am choosing Europe, where my migration project will reside as a repository. Then I can get to select the assessment too. Like I told you earlier on, so you have Azure Migrate here. Then you get to see what is supported. So let's see here. So you have supported workloads, you have VMware and Hyper-V virtual machines, you have import-based assessment, right? So I'm going to tell us about some of all this. Then you also have physical machines as well. Then you have the features that it has. Okay, yes, it has agentless discovery and is going to be able to is going to be able to perform cost planning and optimal right sizing. So which means that when I'm migrating my infrastructure, like my virtual machines or even my physical machine to Azure, is going to give me an optimal right sizing when I'm moving those, when I'm ready to do the migration, right? Then you can also do discovery of installed applications. So even though it is in a preview, I must tell us also that some of the things that we have in preview, it is not advisable, as according to Microsoft, it is not advisable for production. So, but you can consume it maybe in your test environment or in your test scenarios for you to see how it works so that you can leverage it, because Microsoft does not support you deploying any product or any services in preview to your production environment, right? So then you have application dependency analysis. So you get to see a lot more of a lot more of the features. Then you get to have another tool, which is Cloudamize. You have another tool here, which is Move. I must also inform you that Move and Azure Migrate is a tool owned by Microsoft. So Microsoft acquired this Move. That should be like last year, as part of their portfolio as well. So you have other ISV tools, so like Cloudamize, Current Tech, Tubonomics, Unified Cloud, and so on and so forth. So this is my assessment. This is my assessment tool. I can choose to say I want to use Azure Migrate for my assessment, while I am going to use probably Carbonite for my migration too. So it depends on it depends on your planning strategy, and if it supports your workloads, and the features that you're looking for is also part of it as well. So I'm going to choose Carbonite Migrate, then I will click on next. So once it gives me the review, then I will just click on add tools. But because of this tutorial, because of this webinar, pardon me, I'm not going to click on add tools because I've already created a migrated project, right? So this is my migrated project or migrate project, like you can see here. So I have I have Azure Migrate server assessment, and you can get to see the discovered servers, and you can get to have the migration tools there, even though you did not, I mean, I have not populated it with anything. Then another thing is this: you can use more than one tool to do your assessment. So if you want to add more to this Azure Migrate, then you just need to click on here. Then you select the tool that you want to use. Probably I still want to make use of Move also. So you can, before you be able to do this, you need to contact with Microsoft partner. Like, I mean, just you can contact us. Then we're going to be able to give you the words. We're going to be able to give you the right advice and how you can deploy this with you. So we need to do the register with Azure Migrate and so on and so forth, right? So that's why I can have these two assessment too for me to do what? For me to perform my assessment, right? So then let me go overview of what I have done, right? Now I'm going to be, so many are going to be asking me that, so how did I get to know the total machines that I'm having in an environment and so on and so forth? So I will show us how we can start how we can start our assessment. So let's first of all go to discovery. Now, before we'll be able to make an assessment of anything, we need to first of all discover the environment. I mean, we need to first of all discover, right? And when you are doing the discover, you have you have opportunity to select either you want to use appliance or you want to use using a CSV, right? So you want to import it using a CSV. So I think I might need to just show us once again. Pardon me for that. Let me quickly show us what the CSV look like and what you need to do, what you need to populate with it. So I'm going to be sharing my entire screen. Pardon me. Okay, so I don't know if we can see my screen now, right? So I'm sure we can still see my screen. So this is what the CSV look like. You have Azure Migrate import template. Now, major 4 columns are expected. You are expected to fill major, 4 major columns here, which is the server name. You are expected to fill the numbers of cores that is running on the server. You are also expected to do what? To do the memory. You need to populate the memory that is running on the server as well. You are also expected to populate the operating system that is running on it. But there is a caveat to this, right? If I am using this import template for me to do my assessment, I won't be able to have like extensive use. I won't be able to have an extensive use of Azure Migrate in discovering or in even making assessment, because later on Azure Migrate will not be able to do sizing. It's okay, so it's going to be able to do the sizing for you based on the specifications that you've stated, but it won't be able to do service mapping. You won't be able to say the application that is running on the machine, the servers itself. So whether that application is something that it's supported on Azure or is not supported, or you need to upgrade it to what? You need to upgrade it, or you need to install a particular you need to install a particular dependencies or service pack before you be able to use that. But Azure Migrate will just do the assessment for you based on the fact that you use the CSV. So if you want to download the CSV, you just need to click on this CSV, populate it. Then once you've populated it, you need to just come here. But you need to make sure that it is validated. So once it is validated, then you're going to see the information about about your servers or your infrastructure, right? But I am going to be using discover using the appliance today, right? So, and you need to determine, or you need to decide on how you are virtualized. Is your environment virtualized using what? VMware, that's vSphere, vSphere hypervisor, or you are using what? You are using Microsoft, or you are not even maybe it is not what it is not virtualized, but it's a physical machine, then you need to do what you need to click on not virtualized and order, right? And when you need to do the not virtualized and order, then you need to do what you need to download this zip file, then run this, and you need to make sure that the prerequisite your server meet up with the requirements, the basic requirements, which means you need to have an internet. You need to have an internet. I mean, the server needs to be able to communicate with Azure. You can define a straight internet to the server. I mean, from your server to internet, or you can define using a specific URL base, like saying that all the URLs that needed to, so you populate it on your firewall and you allow the traffic from that particular server to be able to do traffic flow using that URL as well. So that is for physical server. So let's go with yes with Hyper-V. So you get to download this image file, right? So when you've downloaded the image file, I'm going to show us what the image file look like. We need to import it. So that is how we start our discovery. So in the first, I mean, in just little time, let's quickly go that. Let's delve into that without wasting our time. I hope we can still see my screen. Can we still see my screen?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So now this is my server that I've provisioned, right? This is my on-premise server, and it has it has a lot of virtual machines on it. By the way, I must tell you that you can run. I'm actually using my server on Azure, right? So you can run what we call nested virtualization in Azure. So you can provision a virtual machine in Azure and also run multiple VMs on it, but it needs to meet up with standards. So if you need more details on that, you can contact us to give you more information on how you can go about that configuration and settings. And I'm sure you need to be on the right licenses so that you'll be able to enjoy that benefit as well. So this is my Hyper-V, which I hosted on Azure, right? And I have virtual machines that are running on it. I'm going to show us another virtual machine that is hosting up to about 5 virtual machines on it, right? And I have downloaded I've downloaded my Azure Migrate appliance. Now, this is my Azure Migrate appliance. I need to do what? I need to extract this, right? I need to extract this. This is the way I've downloaded it. I need to extract it. And after I have extracted it, I need to now come here to say I want to import my virtual machines. But before I'll need to do that, I need to put some things in order in my Hyper-V, like configuring my virtual switch manager, where you need to have your what? You need to have your virtual machines, the network, the switch that your virtual machines will be using to communicate among themselves and even communicate outside outside the environment. Let me quickly show us why that one is running, right? That one is exporting. So this is another VM in Azure that is running what? That is running virtualizations, and these are all the servers that is running on it. I'm sure you can get to see that all of them are flowing free fine, no issue with them. So before this one we just complete, right? So let's go back to our portal. I will check with that very soon now for us to see for us to see how we can import the Azure Migrate appliance itself. Now, going forward, also, like I have said, I've discovered what I have used an Azure Migrate appliance, which I showed us here. Pardon me. Okay. So this is my appliance, which I have imported, right? And I can connect to it. Like I can connect to it now, and I need to just log in and perform some activities. Now, it is not just that I will need to import the virtual machines. I need I need to import the virtual machine, and I need to also connect my migration appliance to Azure itself. That's Azure Migrate appliance. I need to connect it to my Azure. So how do I go about that? Now, the moment you log into the Azure Migrate appliance, you need to put some things in order, right? You need to go by your network. You need to configure your IP address, right? Your IP address, the IP address on the server needs to be on your network as well. So you need to give it something that is related to your network that is within your the server network, where you need to make the discovery of your VMs as well. So that is what I've configured here. And if you have a DHCP in an environment, you can also use that as well, so far it's able to reach the server network. And another thing is, you need to make sure that this appliance can talk to internet. Yes, I'm aware that your environment does not support a direct full access of maybe like you open a firewall of your firewall for a particular device to go on internet in an open format. So you can also use a proxy, and you can as well still define the path, that's the traffic URL that you want to allow for one particular virtual machine, which is this Azure Migrate. Now, so we need to double click on this Azure Migrate appliance configuration manager. Then it's just wait for it to load, and once it's loaded, it's going to ask us some questions that we need to supply answers to. So let's check whether this other machine is ready. It has okay. So it's still extracting. Pardon me for that. I actually wanted us to see how it looks like. That's the reason why I did not go ahead and say I want to put all this in order before we have this session. So this is how the appliance manager portal looks like, right? Now you can get to see that I can manage my appliance here. I have connected this one to I've connected it to a subscription. That's the reason why you are seeing the subscription name, and also the appliance name, and also the migration project. So we're still going to do the same thing for the one that we are updating. So should your machine is not allowed to go on freely to the internet, you can use the update proxy information, where you're going to populate how you want the device to connect to internet. So you can populate that, and once that is done, right, you will get a notification for you to sign into your account, right? So that's once you see this code, it's telling you that you need to register you need to log into Office 365 pardon me, with Office 365. You need to log into Azure AD PowerShell module on this particular device. So let's click on next. So I will need to supply my credential. That's the one that I use on my Azure tenant, right? I need to supply the credentials. So I will supply the password. And for me, I am going to supply the MFA now. So the MFA, I must also say this is a way for you to do what? For you to secure your environment or your identity when you are doing when you have Microsoft, you're doing Microsoft 365 as a cloud, right? So you have I have signed in. So I can now go back to my appliance. It tells me that I can do I can close this PowerShell, that window, once I've successfully logged on, right? Then I can now go ahead and say the prerequisite. I'm able to fulfill the prerequisite. I can go next to the iPad V server details, where I will need to populate my host informations or the clusters. So if you need to do that, you can click on add, and you'll be able to see what it will tell us, which name, which credential can you use, can Azure Migrate use to do to log into this particular server. That's the host, for you to be able to do this discovery. So I have done this. And like you can see here, detailed information about previously added host is not loaded. So I need to click on fetch data. That's if we have done it before. And you need to have the status showing as green. So if the status is not showing as green, that means your what the credential must have changed. That if probably the password has changed, then you need to update the password as well. Then at the end of the day, you need to do the registration of the what? You need to register the appliance itself. So let's go back to the one that we are trying to extract. Oh, this is taking time. So I'm sure that we've been able to see how we got the discovery of our servers, right? But I will still show us, just pardon me, let's go ahead while we do what, while we run some other things. We will still talk about how we can import that particular what, we can import the virtual machines and start it running, right? So these are the servers that has been discovered. Like you can see here, so you have what? You have SQL, you have all these machines, and it even gives me the IP address. It goes to the extent of what? Giving me how many cores that is running on it, what's the memory size, what's the disk size, what's the storage size. It can even go ahead and tell me how many storage do I have on each of the servers, right? It can tell me that, okay, I'm having 3 storage, or I'm having 3 drive, which is splitted, and that's if I'm using different disk, right? And you can see here, you have the Azure Migrate appliance as the what? As the discovered servers. Then you have the import base here. So if you're using import base, you'll be able to use this one. But if you're using Azure Migrate appliance, you need to come here. So another thing that we can do is that I have discovered, then I need to create an assessment, right? I have gone ahead. So let me go back. We've gone ahead to say we want to create assessment, and how do we want to do the assessment? So let me go back for us to see that actually. So I can come here to the assessment, and I said I want to assess, right? I want to assess discovery source, machines discovered from Azure Migrate appliance. Then I can give it an appliance name, the assessment name. Let me say migration hub. And now I can get to select the target location. So let's see the various information here. So I am not just doing what, I'm not just saying that I want to do the assessment. I need to know that in the location, even if I want to migrate now, I want to know whether whether there some of the servers or the virtual machines that I will be having later on is going to be compatible in the destination host, like in locations where I want to host my data. So that's why I chose West Europe here. Then you can have reserved instances. Reserved instances is one of the way for us to save cost in Azure, whereby you get to reduce a lot of money that you spend. Instead of you to do the pay as you go, you can do a reserved instance for 1 year or even 3 years. Then you can get to select the virtual machine series that you wanted, right? During your maybe based on what you wanted, right? You can get to select the virtual machine series, right? Then you can go ahead down to using Azure Hybrid Benefit. Azure Hybrid Benefit enables you to be able to do what? To be able to reduce up to about 49% of what is going to cost you to have a pay-as-you-go services running on Azure. Having something around your Windows licenses, Windows Server licenses, you want to bring it, you have Windows Server licenses, you want to bring it to what? You want to bring it to Azure. So we can also cover it, we can give you something like an advice or recommendations as regard how you can use your on-premise licenses in Azure as well, which is going to reduce the cost of running your resources on Azure as well. So once I'm able to do that, then I will click on save for me to save my assessment project that I just created here. So I'm not going to click on save now because I have an assessment here. So let me go to the assessment that I have here, right? I have created an assessment for what? For SQL group and also for domain controllers. So if I should go to host assessment, right, I'll be able to see the assessment readiness. Like, are they ready for what? Are they ready for Azure presently, right? If they are ready for Azure, so you get to see ready for Azure or ready with conditions, or even not ready at all, then you will see whether the readiness is even unknown. Then you'll be able to see how much you're going to be spending, like your costing for months on some of all these resources. So what am I going to be spending? What is taking huge part of my what? Each part of my cost. I'm having the compute taking huge part of my cost, which is $61 in a month for my 2 VMs, right? Then I have 11.78 taking what? Taking another percentage. So let's go down again. Let's drill down for us to see which of it is taken. How do we come up with this? How do we come up with this particular price? I can go to the Azure readiness and get to see each of the server that I have in that particular assessment for me to be able to see what? For me to be able to see what is costing me and how I can plan my spending as well. So I have the SQL, which is presently, this one is showing unknown, so you can do recalculate if you are not what? If probably the you're not satisfied with that particular what? You're not satisfied with the two, what the two gave you as an assessment. So this one is ready now. So then you can get to see the the VM size, the Azure VM size that it's recommending. So it's telling me that I should use A1 V2, and it also give me the suggestion of tools that I should use. Like I can use Azure Migrate, server tool. So for me to do what? For me to do my migration. So I can get to open that readiness up and see the informations about it as well. So you can get to see the disk. Let me expand the disk, and it tells me this is the standard disk that is being offered, right? Then I can go to the network adapter as well. Is it also supported? So it's also supported. So it tells me about the MAC addresses and also tells me what the disk will be costing me. Like you can see here. So it's going to be costing me about what? $5.89. That is exclusively cheap, right? I'm sure you're going to be wondering that. So Azure is really pretty cheap like this. Yes, Azure is pretty cheap. So if you have a right if you have a right advices and recommendations or even planning, you'll be able to You'll be able to utilize the benefit of Azure that you have, right? So I think let me go back again to grouping. So why did I have groupings? How did I come about grouping as well? So I have discovered servers in my environment, and I need to say that this particular server is depending on one other. So let's get to see this. Let's view dependency that we have on this. So like I told you earlier on, you can get to see service mapping, right? You'll be able to see service mapping of your discovered servers or your assessed servers. That is only available if you're using Azure Migrate. Azure Migrate appliance, right? You'll be able to do that. Then you get to see what is connected. Like you can see now, this server is connected to DC 2003. And what are the ports that this server is using on this server as well? You can get to see it here. So you have port 123, which is NTP. You have LOC SRV, which is 135, and you also have 389, which is LDAP. So even if you can even if you need to do some investigation as well, you can also get to use Azure Migrate alongside with your with your with the service mapping for you to do for you to plan and to see discovery of how your service is relating to another thing. There are ample tools that you can use. Like I mentioned earlier on, if you wanted to make use of something like a Move tool, which is also comprehensive, is also a comprehensive tool for you to see some information about your about your environment. You only wanted to make use of it for assessment so that you can plan your migration journey. You can contact Ha-Shem for that, and we're going to be willing, more than ready to support you, to support your cloud migration journey. I think I'm going to be handing over the session for today here. I am so sorry. This guy is taking a lot of time for it to extract for us, but I promise you, we're going to export this together in another series of this cloud simplifying your cloud migration using an Azure Migrate. But I want to believe that with some of all what we've covered now, right, we are ready to do what? We are ready to have some migration planning as well. So let me quickly show us one little things before I'm going to be handing over back. And entertaining your questions as well. So I said databases as well. So if we need to make assessment on databases, all I just need to do in our next series, we'll get to see how we can assess database readiness to migration to Azure. Then let me show us this beautiful one. I really love this one very well, and I'm sure this is going to be to some of our developers or even some people that are concerned about their web applications and everything like that. So let's say that we want to migrate our web apps to Azure, or we want to perform assessment. Is it ready? Is it supported? Is all our programming tools, all the things that we use together to come up with this particular web app, is it supported on Azure as well? So let me click on the add tools as well, right? And I can get to see which tool can I use, right? It tells me that I should use Azure Migrate to do my web assessment, and I can also talk about talk about the migration. So let's click on next. Let's click on next, and so once you do this, then you select your words. You select on your add tools. So I'm going to let me quickly show us. So this is one of the things that you can use where you can do the assessment, right? So now, if for instance, Jumia, this is a disclaimer, so I'm just using Jumia for learning sake. So Jumia, we all know what Jumia does. One of the things that you need to be sure with Azure Migrate is that you won't experience you won't experience downtime when your service is being migrated to to Azure Cloud using using any of the ISV tool. So another thing you need to look out for when you're doing your planning to Azure is whether the tool will support we give me benefit of not having a downtime. If the tool can tells you the expected downtime, you should be ready for it. But if the tool cannot tell you the expected downtime, then I will gladly advise that you should look for another tool that you can use, or you contact Ha-Shem for huge recommendations and support as regard the migration. So let's do an assessment now whether jumia.com.ng is ready to be migrated to Azure. So let's take, for instance, I just need to punch in jumia.com.ng and I will click on assess. Now, all I just need is just eat that, and it gives me your site framework and hosting model is fully supported for migrating over to Azure App Services. Start your migration process by downloading the migration assistant now. So you can go ahead and do that, or you can even review all the frameworks. Like this now, it's having about 4 frameworks here. You have PHP, you have Ruby, you have Myra Cloud, you have Facebook domain verifications, and also the hosting. So it gets to you get to have the hosting that you can choose. Is it Amazon, or is it Cloudflare, or is it Akamai hosted, or is it dedicated hosting that you wanted to do? So it is supported as well. Then let's see the web services as well. So it's NGINS, INX, or even if it is version 2 as well, you get to see whether it is supported as well. So if you want to see some more technologies that has been detected on the site as well, then you can click on show more. So I'm going to say yes, show more, and you can get to see all these. Anyone that is not supported, so like you see here, it says not in use in top app services sites, but it is what? It is also supported as well, even though it is not in use by a top app services site, but it is also being supported as well. So these are some of the things that you can use Azure Migrate to do assessment of. I think by now I'm going to be taking questions and feedback if we have what, if we have any questions. I am telling you, this is not a series that we can conclude within 1 hour, but I'm hoping that the next time we're meeting, we are going to, oh, this is beautiful. Would you just give me 1 minute just for us to do the import and know that fully by next time we're going to do what? We're going to start our migration journey of some of the workloads that we have. So if we need to do the migration now, I mean, we need to do the import of that appliance. I would just need to come to import virtual machine, right? This is on Hyper-V that we're covering today, right? So I need to import virtual machine and I need to go to the locations where the virtual machine, I have done the extraction to. So this is the extraction. So I'll need to locate the folder, then I need to just select the folder, then go next, right? Then I need to just do next. Now, when you are doing the import of the appliance, I am going to suggest that please kindly don't use register the virtual machine in place or restore the virtual machine. I'm going to say that you should do copy the virtual machine so that you can have a new unique ID. That is the recommendation. So you copy the virtual machine so that you can do what? You can have a new unique ID, right? So then you can get to specify where do you want to store the virtual machines. I want to store it in my defined locations where I can store my VM and also my hard disk as well. So if you want to store it in a different word, if you want to store it in different location, you can get to choose here. So I'm going to just leave it as default. Then I'll click on what? I'll click on finish. So that is as simple as that for you to do what? For you to import. So it tells you that you need to do what? You need to specify how many processor, because of the host that I'm running on Azure, so it doesn't support up to about 8 virtual cores. So I need to make it 4. That's what is supported for it. So you can, that doesn't mean that you cannot use a virtual machine in Azure that supports up to about even 16 or 32 cores. You can spin up any virtual machines that support up to that, right? Then I need to define my network as well. Then I need to go next. Once I'm able to do this, that is finished, right? That is just excellent. Within 1 minute, we've set up our appliance for us to do what? For us to start our migration, for us to do assessment, and also for us to be able to do migration planning. I think I'm going to be stopping from here. Do we have any questions? I'm going to be taking questions from here.
Wow, thank you very much, James, for this very insightful section. And for our listeners back at home, thank you for staying back and not touching the dial. Thank you very much once again, James Olashopo. And I know we've been able to see how Azure Migrate will help us to execute our most important migration projects. And don't forget, this is just a part 1 of this webinar series. Next time we'll be coming up with a part 2 on how you can simplify your cloud migration journey with Azure Migrate. I know we have questions, so please, if you have questions and comments, get it rolling. We are sure to give you every answers that you need. And if you need further information to this, I'll be dropping an email on the chat window, says@ha-shem.com. Please follow us and send in your questions. If you want more information, if you want to manage your infrastructure, you want to revamp your infrastructure, you need support and you need advisory. Don't forget, Ha-Shem is a one-stop shop for you. So if you have questions, please, we'll be entertaining questions and comments now. Thank you. Please, do we have questions? Let's get it rolling. Okay, I think we have.
Hello.
Okay, Chimi's hand. Yeah,
Hello,
Mr.
sir.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can
Yes,
you hear me? Yeah, just
good evening,
thanks
sir.
for the nice presentation. Quick question there. The Azure Migrate, is it a free tool
Okay. Yes, it is a free tool that you can leverage on if you once you have an Azure subscription, because you need a subscription for you to be able to use it and get the report. So it's a free tool once you have an Azure subscription. You don't need to pay for it. Yes.
Okay. So, and also during the migration, you don't need like a staging area. Like in most migration, you want to like test the application before you do the actual cutover. Does it give you that flexibility?
Awesome. That's a beautiful question, sir. So you have the flexibility to test your application first before before it's going to perform the final migration of your server from on-premise. So I'm sure during the time when we are going to be having the series from the migration, you're going to see how the migration tool will automatically shut down once we are able to confirm that all our servers, all our services, they are running fine as expected, right? So it's going to automatically shut down the one on our data center that is being migrated, and or just give you your servers in Azure for you to be doing for you to continue functioning just the same way you've been having it running. So you have the flexibility.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chime. Thank you, James, for that. Please, do we have more questions? Questions, comments? Okay. Oh. Someone speaking? Okay, so in the absence of no further question, I want to say a very big thank you to everyone that has been on the call. Thank you for your time. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ha-Shem colleagues. Thank you, everyone, for your time. And we do hope to see you next Thursday for another much insightful session. And don't forget to join us on Tuesday for our Tuesday Security 101 webinar series, where we'll be giving you tips on how you can actually go about your security even at this time of the COVID-19. And also don't forget to fill our evaluation form. I'll be posting it again on the chat window. And also, please, I'll also be putting the link to our social media handles for you to follow, like us, and get updated with webinar series like this. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Thank you, James Olashoko, for the very insightful session. And do have a wonderful evening. Bye, everyone.